Matt Murdock. Huge red flag in this episode. Huge red flag.
Oh, what capacity?
Does not have coffee at his apartment. I mean, who is this guy? Huge red flag. I am off the Daredevil train. I'm a full-blown Punisher guy. I don't care about Daredevil. This is crazy. He doesn't have coffee.
This is a great
also,
point. Hello, and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
And I'm Nick. And today we are talking about Daredevil Born Again, Season 1, Episode 9 finale. It's really like the split between the season's supposed to be about like 18 episodes. So this is the halfway point technically, but it is a finale. And quick little story time. I was working on our thumbnail.
What's your story, Nick?
Our thumbnail, as you see, is it's called it's got the Absolute Chaos title on it. I was working on that before the episode just to kind of, get ahead of schedule. Put that Absolute Chaos tag there as a placeholder. Figured I'd have to change it after watching episode 9. Realized it's perfect. Doesn't need to be changed because that's exactly what happened during this episode. Complete chaos. Insanity. Joe, what do you got?
I mean, from what I understand, it sounds like either A, you've been channeling the insanity of our current timeline and managed to guess the absolute correct thumbnail. So well done on that.
Thank you.
Or, and still well done here, you're an oracle. And I'd like to talk to you about the lottery later, if that's okay with you, Nick.
Yeah, sure. You're going to lose all your money because I'm confirming here that I am not an oracle.
Exactly what an oracle should say.
I took an educated guess at a potential title for our thumbnail of Absolute Chaos based on the previous 8 episodes. And you know what? It's probably not as an amazing guess as I think it is, but I'm going to just pat myself on the back. So,
Well, it was an amazing guess no matter what, unless you saw the show title, which I don't think you did. Straight to Hell, episode 9. And indeed, it seems as though the conflicts that we used to see in Hell's Kitchen, seasons 1 through 3 of Daredevil on Netflix, have boiled on over into New York proper for Daredevil Born Again. And as you said, Nick, we're at the finale. And I guess, let's first get right into how are you feeling? We just came off of watching it. How are you feeling on the coattails of this?
So at the beginning of the episode, when they there was a flashback about Nessa and Bullseye, right? And about how that whole thing happened. But after that, we see Murdock sitting in a hospital bed, and he just got shot, right? He just took this bullet for Kingpin, which is crazy. And I'm immediately in my head, I'm like, oh, you know what? Like, it doesn't make any sense that I think this is going to be like an insane episode because he just got like shot from a sniper rifle. He's laying in a hospital bed. Like, there's no way he's doing any fighting during this episode. Like, there's no way. So, like, in the first 5 minutes, I was just thinking, I was like, you know what? Maybe this is like kind of more of a setup for the second half of season 1 rather than like a crazy fight scene, chaotic battle that I was like maybe thinking of prior, right? Because I just, he just took a big ass bullet. Well, that was wrong. Because
hang on a second. That's a great point that I didn't think about. Because like that wasn't just like a handgun bullet that went into him. There was a sniper shot.
He took a sniper shot, and first of all, Fisk was wearing white, so you can see how much blood there was. There was a lot. Which also, quick side note, really cool color use at the end of episode 8 with Nessa and Daredevil kind of with their red vibe going on, and then Kingpin and Dr. Glen with their like white attire or brighter attire going on. There's really cool color contrast going on in episode 8. So episode 9, I was like, oh, actually, you know what? There's not going to be much Daredevil battle here because he just got like shot by a sniper. Like, there's not, of course. And that was pretty much, I was wrong because like, a couple minutes later, he's got Frank in his apartment and all of a sudden he's in his Daredevil attire and they're just kicking ass. So, pretty much from that point on, like all bets are off, and this episode was completely insane from pretty much the start to finish. So my initial thoughts are, what the hell? This is
Nice.
crazy that that Kingpin can even do all of this from the mayor's seat of a major city. You know, I mean, that's like the practical side of me. I'm like, what the hell? But anyway.
No, I feel that. I'm not sure how much of this like I'm not sure I feel like I buy everything that he's been able to do so far.
Right.
Like I get the path that they're going on, that like he inspires like this sort of anarchy and this sort of like, lawlessness to try and get back a New York, right? That they see as a more beautiful city. But I don't know. I feel like his office, other than Daniel Blake, other than inspiring like that kid, I feel like we haven't seen a lot of that. Not even like really through the BB report, which I think would be a really great use of that.
Yeah.
I think like the BB report's been great in like getting us in touch with New Yorkers, and like they're pissed about the vigilantes. But I don't really see how New Yorkers distinguish like vigilantes from like the cops who are part of like the special how does he work? The task force, right? The special task force, right? Because it feels like
that's a
they're
great
just
point.
vigilantes without masks. I don't know. I feel like it would help if we saw more from the BB report there to show us like how they're feeling about the task. Like, I feel safer with the task force,
right.
like something like that, right?
Yeah, this is a great point because the BB report has been pretty important part of pretty much every episode so far in this season.
With I would make the argument with the exception of episode 9.
Right.
Like,
that's my point.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's my point. But then they completely go away from it in episode 9. They showed a brief clip, but the clip didn't even have an interview this time. It was just like it was almost like a drone shot, right? Like it was not, there was not
the
context. Yeah, it was just like a drone shot with the chaos. Yeah, exactly. There wasn't context like from people on the ground, from the people of the city. And that really helped us connect with the city and how the people were feeling. And like you said, helped drive the storyline so far about how Fisk can even get in this position and how he's able to pull off some of the things he's pulled off up until this point. But to your point, this felt a little overboard. And it would have been nice if there was maybe something to connect us to how the people were feeling at this moment.
It does feel like we've skipped a chapter here.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say like the finale I thought was really interesting. I had a really good time watching it. I think it kind of hurts my. It hurts my feelings. It hurts my opinion of the season overall, and I'll get into that later. There's a disjointedness that I'll explain later, but as far as like the finale goes, yeah, it does feel like we skipped something. I thought the end of episode 8 was so interesting when Murdoch takes the bullet for Fisk, his greatest enemy. I thought that was a really, really creative place to like take their relationship, right? Like, I don't know, the only thing like I can think to compare them to is like Batman and Joker, right? Like they need each other, right? And I like that this went in a different spot, right? Instead of like, the constant chaotic dance between Batman and Joker, like Matt actually put his life on the line to save his mortal enemy, right? And I was really fascinated to see where that was going to go. And it feels like, and maybe there's some seeds for it in the second part of this story, maybe. But as of episode 9, it felt like they just threw that away immediately. It goes straight to Fisk pondering, well, maybe we should kill him now.
Right.
Like, while he's down.
Yeah, he just like, the attempt on his life made him snap.
Yeah.
Even more. And now he just wants he just wants to skip straight to taking over, and like he's not playing the political game anymore. He's just using his power. And
right.
But like, it felt like quite a jump.
It does.
So that's definitely an issue, or
Yeah, and
just something to
that's
think
to
about.
no fault of like any of the actors. Like that definitely feels like a
Right.
writing issue. Like that there it feels like there was something missing.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm.
100%.
That being said, getting into things that I really enjoyed about this episode, anytime, is it John Berthal or Jeremy Berthal? It's
John
John Berthal, right?
John Berthal.
John Berthal. Anytime we get to see him play Frank Castle, so fun. And him just messing people up on screen. Good lord, this was a gory episode.
This was insane. Full Punisher mode, fantastic. Also, red flag. Matt Murdock, huge red flag in this episode. Huge red flag.
Oh, what
Does
capacity?
not have coffee at his apartment. I mean, who is this guy? Huge red flag. I am off the Daredevil train. I'm a full blown Punisher guy. I don't care about Daredevil. This is crazy. He doesn't have
This
coffee.
is a great
also,
point.
one more thing about that.
Wait, before you move on from the coffee, you know what? You're right. This is the most unbelievable part of the show. This man's in a committed relationship.
Yeah.
He's got no coffee in his kitchen.
Yeah, but I'm not
That's
moving
weird.
off of coffee yet. I have one more point about the coffee.
Good. I'm not done.
Can you imagine?
You just raised the red flag in me.
Can you imagine what Frank Castle would have done if he had a cup of coffee before that scene? I mean, it was already crazy.
There's at least half a dozen bodies who will never have to imagine. Thankfully.
Unbelievable. Unhinged. He's like just killing everybody. Daredevil's trying not to kill people, but he can't. He brought Punisher to a fight that he's just gonna end himself. So
right. He brought like a sentient bazooka to a fist fight.
Right. Also, the end of that scene where there's a grenades are being thrown in the apartment, and like they just both know to jump off, and Frank knows that Daredevil's just gonna catch him and help him slingshot down. What a couple bros.
So I love their chemistry.
So
it is horrible. It is toxic. But like they bounce off each other so well, and I enjoy how well like the characters seem to know the other, right? They're able to call each other out on their BS, and like you just pointed out, they can do a leap of faith with each other because like they hate each other. It would appear, but they also know each other so well that they can trust each other, and that's always a really fun dynamic to see on screen. It kind of reminds me of like Bucky and Sam, but like to an even crazier degree, like a way crazier degree.
Yeah, I like that comparison though. They definitely have that chemistry. It's so good.
Yeah. The I hate you, brother.
I hate you, brother. Yeah, or the you're an asshole, Frank.
That actually did get a genuine laugh out of me.
Oh, good. Anyway, we find out that Karen is the one who called him. Karen shows up in a little Honda Accord at the end of that scene.
Was anyone surprised by this? As soon as he said, I got a phone call that convinced me otherwise, it's like, well, all right, I guess Karen's back.
Yeah. Oh man.
I will say I have enjoyed what little we've got of. Is it Deborah? I want to say it's Deborah.
Sheila.
Is it Sheila? Is that her name?
No, Sheila's the assistant, the mayor, the deputy.
No. I'm talking about Karen's actress.
The actress.
Yeah, Deborah Ann Wool. That's her name.
Sorry, my bad.
I've enjoyed what little. Not that I want less of Deborah Ann Wool. What little we have gotten of Deborah, I've really enjoyed. Karen was not always my favorite character in Daredevil. In particular, season 3 wasn't a huge fan of her character. I've really enjoyed her and what we've gotten of Born Again. I think she's been doing a really great job bouncing off of Matt, and I actually really buy their chemistry. I don't think I always believed in that. I'll tell you, as far as romantic leads go, man, I kind of feel bad for Heather. I just feel like she's getting done dirty as far as the writing's going. I don't really understand what they're trying to do with Heather. I don't understand it.
You mean Dr. Glen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot her first name for a second.
I love that you're paying respect to the title. Shame on me.
Shame on you. Um, yeah, she kind of just feels like she's. I almost feel like her storyline it needs a reset after the Muse situation, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're getting that because she was just named the administrator of the health or whatever under Fisk's mayorship, which that feels like kind of a resetting of her storyline, right? Because like before that, her storyline was really about her relationship with Murdoch and the fact that she was the therapist for Vanessa and Fisk, and that Murdoch didn't know that, and there was like this weird like we know something that Murdoch doesn't know, and storyline kind of going on, and then of course the Muse is creeping up in the background, and then eventually, and Muse is also a client, and then that kind of like comes to a head, right, with how that Muse with how Muse dies and obviously tries to kill Dr. Glen. So it felt like that was like the ending of her initial storyline, and so this episode really, even the last one, half of the last one, and this one, it was kind of a little jumbled, and not she kind of like you said, kind of feel like she kind of got a little bit like disregarded. So I'm thinking her being named part of Fisk's kind of cabinet, if you will, that definitely brings a increased storyline. She's got to find out that Murdoch is Daredevil at some point soon. Like,
Yeah, that's definitely coming to a head. It feels like the unmasking, right? I think that's like even part of like her whole like psychological thesis,
right?
right? A bit of foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
Um, it feels like Fisk has brought her closer to his cabinet, like as a hostage almost. At least that's the way I see it. Like,
Well, that's everyone. Half the
yeah,
people are hostages, right?
no, for sure. But like the way he's like been operating, like moving, like at first it just seemed like it was a coincidence that like
Yeah.
he has Dr. Glenn as his doctor, but then we come to find out no, it's all been like he's been trying to get closer to Matt.
Yeah.
And this certainly feels like another attempt at doing that. Um, I gotta ask you, Nick. I don't fully understand Kingpin's plan, and that's because A, I'm not a very smart person, and B, I feel like they kind of explain it really fast. So I'm just gonna put out the facts that I understand, and then like help me walk through this. So like from what I got from this is Vanessa has been using Red Hook as a free port, which I guess she's been able to bring in custom things from across the world as part of like exhibits and museums, so that she doesn't have to go through the customs process, right? She can skip out on all that, and I guess with the development that Kingpin is planning at Red Hook, he could create some kind of sovereign city state. I didn't fully understand this.
So I think it's the opposite. Actually, Red Hook is technically a free port, but they've been using it as part of the city or as their own. It's like if it's a free port, it means it's outside of city jurisdiction and it's outside of. So, but so that is why. So, but you're correct. So you're half correct. So it's a free port, which
I always am.
Yeah, which Vanessa knew it was a free port, so that's why she's been using it how she's been using it to like evade taxes and store things and all this stuff, and using it as like her underground whatever, because it was kind of like a safe haven if she ever got caught. I'm assuming that's why. But no one else knew that it was a free port. So the city was still supposed to be like monitoring it, or like no one knew it was a free port. So the jurisdiction was like that it's part of the city. But also because it was so run down, like no one ever, right? It wasn't developed. No one had been using it.
Forgot about that detail. Yeah.
Right. So like no one's really paying attention, but it's also a free port, but nobody knows that except for Vanessa. So it's almost kind of like a cover.
Foggy sort of figured it out.
And Foggy figured it out. And I think that's why he was going to like ask for the trial to be thrown out, because he wanted to like file something else. I'm not sure about that. That wasn't very clear on like why he
Yeah, because
wanted the trial.
Karen said that that Foggy didn't appear to understand quite the depth of what he had discovered.
Right.
He just knew that he had enough to, whatever the guy's name was, for that guy to walk,
Right.
which he was very confident about.
Right. So, but that's kind of the gist of the Freeport thing. Now, with Fisk wanting to build up the Red Hook as well, and have it be like an actual like powerhouse in the city, they definitely don't want anyone to find out that Red Hook is a Freeport, because if they do that, then it's outside of city jurisdiction and they can't build. I think is how that goes. It's supposed to be, I don't know who would develop it in that case, to be honest. I'm not sure how that works. But to your point, that's not very clear either. So but I think that's a good, hopefully slight summary there. We'll probably get more details about that next time, to be honest.
I'm hoping so,
because that's an important detail for sure that they're going to touch on more. Like that's not over yet for sure.
That was as good of an explanation as I could have hoped for. Thank you for walking me through that. like Karen was piecing it together so fast. I was like, Karen, I'm so excited for you. Could you slow it down or repeat yourself a little bit?
If you're listening to this and you're a lawyer, or you're just smarter than us, which is a good shot, please just let us know in the comments.
Please let us know if you're smarter. I'd love to hear from you. I think that could use some fleshing out for sure. Or like, I'm at least like curious to see like what the depth of power is if Kingpin is like successful in doing that, right? Right. Are we talking about a sovereign state? Like, what does that mean exactly? In any case, Kingpin flips the switch on the city, right? And as we've talked about, it creates absolute chaos. And Nick, my first thought when this happened was, I wonder what Spider-Man is doing. Bro. Because like this is unfortunately one of the issues with with this interconnected universe. I don't think it comes up a lot. I think sometimes like there's a believable excuse as to why not everyone would be involved. This one I'm having a really hard time justifying.
So I don't think it's out of this world that they're not mentioning Spider-Man yet, because
but he's still like active. I think we assume that he is.
He's definitely we might get, it would be cool if we get some sort of like reference to this moment in the next Spider-Man film. It would be, I think, beneficial.
Can I just say, like, my long shot, like, bet for next season is a Spider-Man, like, cameo.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I think that's
my long shot bet.
That's a triple long shot. I don't even think Bullseye could make that shot, Joe.
Hear me out, okay? This is a long shot. I acknowledge it. All right, I'm putting that out there, but hear me out, okay? First off, we have to get through like the Sony problem, and then like the fact that Tom Holland, I think he's only signed up for like maybe.
This ain't happening. We're wasting time. There's no way.
Hear me out. Yeah. Two things. So the first being, at the end of the episode, Matt says we're gonna need an army, right? And we see like some of the characters that we've come to know throughout the season at the bar, right? I assume he means more than that.
See,
right? Because like,
this is where your thought falls apart. I don't think he does. I think that's it.
Okay, so I think he absolutely does. I absolutely think we're gonna see the other members of like the Netflix shows start to show up here. So like,
possible.
Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones. Please God. There was already kind of a Kristen Ritter already kind of hinted at this like a couple days ago that like she's been hanging out with Charlie Cox. So like could be happening. But if we're getting heroes together who are known throughout New York, who better than Spider-Man? Whoever that man could be. And the other reason why I think that this is possible, Daredevil made a cameo in Spider-Man. Wouldn't it be great if Spider-Man made a cameo in Daredevil?
Yeah,
I don't know.
The problem is Matt Murdock doesn't know who Spider-Man is.
He could probably figure it out. He's a damn good lawyer.
No, I mean like...
No, I know. I understand.
You know?
You did a reference to the movie. I was also trying to do a reference to the movie. I think he's a very good lawyer. I messed up the reference. I'm a very good lawyer.
I know,
That's the
but
reference.
my part of the movie came after and trumps your part of the movie. That's why.
Listen, with the power of money, anything is possible, okay?
He doesn't have money.
I guess neither of them do at this point. It feels like Matt just like lost his whole savings in that apartment.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
they could
he's
bond
just
over that.
underground. He's underground. Speaking of underground, I don't know why I wasn't expecting this. It kind of makes sense because like they set up that Kingpin likes to keep people prisoner, but man, I was not expecting to see all these people in cages at the end.
No, I think you're right to say that. I don't think that was really well set up, to be honest.
That's crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially with half those people have like a ton of money / were like really important people in New York.
Yes.
There's a couple of plot holes like that they didn't really set.
Some
Like,
crazy leaps. Some crazy leaps here.
I mean, he's the mayor of the city. He's not like the dictator in a small country. You know, like it's like and he's declaring martial law. Okay, like are they going to lock down the bridges? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Batman Begins did a better job. No, not Batman. Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises. Kind of similar, actually, if you think about both those movies.
Oh, yeah, I thought, yeah, actually.
Holy shit. That's another episode. We're not talking about that Friday. But Dark Knight Rises did a better job of like keeping the National Guard out and like telling us what was shut down, right? Granted, they were doing that for months long. Kingpin just needed a night. But he is declaring martial law, which means people have to curfew of 8 p.m. So like, I mean, I know it's a show too. We don't want to get too like cynical or too specific, but it feels like a big thing to do.
Yeah, no, it does, considering at like how much it tries to like ground itself in reality.
Yeah.
You know, we are talking about like a dude who dresses as a ninja and goes out and beats people up with no eyesight, but like still, it tries to ground itself in as much reality as possible.
But I think that the reason I have a bigger problem with it in this case is kind of like we were saying earlier. At this moment from episode 9, we don't know how the city feels like we have felt in the other 8 episodes. So right now, right now it feels like a big leap because we haven't actually heard from the normal citizens on the ground in the BB report like we had before. And I think they did a really good job of selling what was happening.
Yes, and you know, to your point, I think like if you really wanted to like sell this moment, I think maybe the BB report is how you do this. Because like he's scary, right? He's always been like, or like he's always supposed to be a scary character. Personally, I feel like he wasn't as scary this episode as he normally is, despite the fact that he's like totally like lost it apparently.
Right. Well, and you know the head exploding thing. I mean that was terrifying.
Right. We'll get there. But I think it would have been a lot more terrifying to see like how much we've actually lost the city if like we do see in like the BB report that people are saying like I fully support this. Like, I fully support the martial law.
Right.
Like let's reclaim this, you know, that people have like that he has taken the city, right? Which is what Matt is saying at the end. Like the city's not his, like not yet. Or
and you know what? Like to jump ahead a little bit, because I'm trying to think of like where they could have fit that in the episode. Maybe that should have been the after credit scene.
Yeah.
Instead of Punisher, Frank Castle.
That would have been cool if the whole credits was the BB report.
Right? Like that would have been cool because to like bring everything together and like make us like understand how the city feels.
Mm-hmm.
Although the Frank Castle Punisher scene at the end was really badass. And I'm assuming he escaped. I think that's the assumption we're supposed to have. But
super badass. I don't understand why this was the after credit scene. Like it was a weird choice.
Yeah, they definitely didn't want to kick off the next season with him possibly being in a cage. So they probably just wanted to give us like the question of, oh, maybe he escaped. That way they can kind of do whatever they want. I'm assuming like gives them more creative liberties, right? For the next part, which they probably already have written anyway. But yeah, I think the BB report would have been better there. And this would have kind of maybe connected everything for us. And we wouldn't be feeling as like, kind of like taken aback.
So I want to talk about the show itself for a second here. So the first episode I dug. It felt like we were saying goodbye to a lot of things that we had come to know in the Netflix show, right? And the second episode, where we got Matt's like new life a year later, and we got Kingpin, who's mayor, and I was really pretty interested to see like how, okay, like we got this breath of fresh air going, things are really different. Let's see where this goes. And for the next several episodes, like it appears to be going in this new direction. And then all of a sudden episode 8 shows up. And like I want to be really clear about this, Nick. I found episode 8 to be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I found episode 9 to be really interesting. It almost feels like episode 1, episode 8, and episode 9 are a different show. It feels super disjointed here. And like I never got the vibe that Foggy's death was part of like a bigger conspiracy. It never felt like that. And then all of a sudden in episode 8, it was. And that didn't feel like a plot twist. That didn't feel like like it just felt like Matt always kind of knew this. And he was like, finally had something to go on. Right. And like everything else that had happened before, it doesn't really feel like it adds up into episode 8 and 9. Like the bank episode and how the gangsters were conspiring against Kingpin, like that doesn't really add into any of this, really. The death of Hector Ayala, the trial of Hector Ayala, which is I think my favorite episode of the entire season. I love that episode. I think there's an argument that you can make with like setting up the police force and like how they end up becoming like the goons of Kingpin, right? But like beyond that, like not a lot. So I don't know.
So I guess my counterpoint to you there is that one, yes, basically episodes 1 through 7 really are kind of like a different show in a way. There are pieces that lead up to 8 and 9, but 8 and 9 still feel like a jump in many ways. But there are pieces there for like why this is happening. But those first 7 episodes almost felt like we were just like stretching a rubber band as far as we could, with like Kingpin and Daredevil both trying to like cling to this like new way of being that is just, it was never going to stick. And we were just waiting for something to just go crazy. And I think actually it was episode 6 where they both kind of started losing it a little bit. And I think that gives some more context, at least, to where like I can see why we ended up here, or at least why episode 8 went the way it went. It kind of felt like we jumped, and then we really jumped to 9. But at least to 8, it felt like that makes sense, right? And we got a lot of the Vanessa and Kingpin relationship and storyline might be my favorite of this season, because they really like found their way back to being a team in the worst ways possible. Therapy did not work in the way it should.
No, it seems like it actually worked great.
Yeah.
I'd say this is a huge argument for therapy.
If
it can bring them together, I mean, like, it can do anything.
Christ.
I hear what you're saying, but there are a couple plot threads that I feel like the show, at least one that the marketing team like was trying to sell at three of these plot threads that really just like I feel like either haven't gone anywhere yet or like aren't going anywhere. The death of Hector Ayala, right? And like the mystery that was like behind that, and like is Frank involved? And like we knew he probably wasn't, and we know it's these guys, but like yeah, it's just this guy, you know, it doesn't really go beyond that, right? It's just like the Punisher problem.
Well, one of the cops.
Wait, let me finish this point real quick. The Muse situation where like we had this character that seemed pretty fascinated with the idea of Kingpin, right? Painting these effigies out of blood, and like we got rid of him pretty fast, which was pretty disappointing. And then the last thing, like for Kingpin himself, you mentioned that by episode 6, that both he and Matt appear to be like really losing it. But like in episode 9, we kind of learned that he was always Kingpin. Like, I think there was this set dressing that like he's trying to do things differently, but like we know that that's not true. Like we know that like he, what was his name? Adam. He put Adam in a cell.
True.
And would beat the snot out of him.
True.
It was a very Kingpin thing to do. He was never not Kingpin.
Yeah.
Maybe the crazy thing is different because like I do feel like we're missing a piece there. But this is kind of my whole point though, where like the whole show just feels disjointed.
Yeah. Two things real quick. One about Adam. You just reminded me because when you mentioned Kingpin beating the shit out of him, Kingpin, one of those episodes ends with Kingpin like beating the brakes off of this Adam guy, and I thought he killed him. And then the next episode, we're like, oh no, he's still alive in his cell, and he doesn't look like he's been beat up at all.
No, not at all.
How much time passed between those two episodes?
Okay, so this happened twice. This happened 2 times. So, like you said, it feels like he's killing him in that moment, right? And then, like you said, next episode we find out no, he's not only not dead, he looks fine.
Right.
Matt did the same thing in episode 2 at the end of the episode when he saves the dude who's going to clear Hector Ayala's name, and the 2 cops walk into the room, and they decide they're going to kill Matt, and Matt's like shaking his head like, don't do this, please don't do this. And then like his violent, darker tendencies come out, and like it looks like, for the way the scene is developed, it looks like he kills them.
Right.
And like the way he reacts, like when he's like, he's screaming at the end because he can't believe what he just did. It really feels like he killed them. And the very next episode, they're fine.
Right. Like, agreed. I totally thought they were dead after that.
Yeah. I was mind blown. I was like, insane. Holy crap, I can't believe they did that.
So, and I wonder if this has anything to do with the rewrites they had done. Potentially, because we knew that there was major rewrites in I don't think it was reshoots, but it was rewriting of the script. So I wonder if this has something to do with that.
That's a good call.
But the Hector Ayala thing, they did find the cop that killed Ayala. They mentioned that in the apartment, and episode 9 was one of the.
That's what I was saying. Like it was just.
But it was like a throwaway.
Some guy.
It was like a throwaway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It felt like it was going to be a bigger deal. And,
yeah. I'm with you there.
Yeah,
for sure.
I ultimately do like this show. I think that they are putting a lot of great ideas into it. So some of them feel like they're not fully fleshed out, and maybe that's because like this, from what we've understood in the writing of this is just one part of a bigger story.
Right.
And it certainly seems to be bigger than I thought it was going to go, straight into like developing an army.
Yeah, for sure. We're gearing up for a little city battle. I don't know how they're going to. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate Murdoch like hiding in plain sight or something, because I mean clearly the whole task force now is looking for Murdoch and not just Daredevil, which complicates things. Castle most likely is on the run, but everyone knows what he looks like, so it's just going to get more complicated. And to your point about Spider-Man, not that I want to encourage this, technically is a masked vigilante. So are we going to get some references to the other masked vigilantes that, are part of the MCU that maybe have, bigger IPs for bigger screens, like in the TV show coming up? Like, what's going to be the deal?
Like a Miss Marvel cameo? Yeah,
that was fun. That was
fun.
I loved
the bank episode was probably my second favorite episode.
Yeah, the bank episode was great. So anyway, that's I got nothing else. You have any other points you want to make?
One last one. This is mostly a joke, but also kind of serious. So do you think like he'll just call up like Jennifer Walters and just be like, hey, I know it was kind of a one-night stand, but how about one more go? And then just be like, hey, New York's a mess. I really need you to do your thing.
Listen, I would love to see She-Hulk in the next season of Daredevil. That would be fantastic. I hope.
Yeah, then we could get Heather, we can get Karen and Jennifer all in a room together and just like see who wins.
And we can get Wongers.
Wongers. The best.
Anyway.
Oh no, sorry. This actually was a serious question though.
Oh god.
Do you think that this show takes place before or after his appearance in She-Hulk?
I'd have to rewatch She-Hulk. I have no idea. I'm going to assume after.
I did. I rewatched it. And I don't know. The show like really feels like it's purposely keeping it ambiguous as to like whether or not it's before or after this.
I'm assuming after. I mean, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I think that's probably the safest assumption. Unless it's trying to explain like
in that show, he's not like, you got to think most of this show he was like
pretty messed up
and depressed about Foggy. He was not that way in She-Hulk. Like he was very confident, and he was Daredevil. So at least
good point.
In this, there's only like 3 episodes where he could have snuck out in the show.
No. So he does know Jennifer Walters, is what we're saying here.
Yes. So we're gonna see She-Hulk. That's our big prediction in the next season. We're gonna see She-Hulk.
We can only hope.
Are we doing scores for this?
Yeah. We're at the end of the season. Might as well. Well, so it's a show. So we scored out of 10. What are you feeling?
7.3 for now.
You're just a little ahead of me. I'm giving it a flat 7. It's a 7. 7 is good. It's worth watching.
Yep.
Room for improvement.
And fun.
I think that it'll get there. I think there's a lot of care behind these characters, so I feel good about it. It's a little messy.
Well done MCU show. A lot of battles, a lot of fighting, a lot of action.
Oh yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, as far as like the craftsmanship, this definitely felt like it was one of the better MCU
90%
shows.
practical fighting. It's like the practical effects, like fighting wise, it's 90% like all happening. It's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Sick.
Yeah, more of that, please. Yeah, the action never really disappointed. I loved the action pretty much all the time on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here. But we'd love to know what you guys think. Let us know in the comments. Subscribe here on YouTube. You can find us on Threads where we're talking about Daredevil and all the other things that are streaming. Look out for our next episode. We're going to be talking about the premiere of Andor, 3 episode premiere, season 2. That's next week. And until next time.
May the review be with you.
Peace.